Hey Squids, I wanted to do a video on bikes that you can get for less than $1,500 that will be great commuter bikes, touring bikes, and just all-around bikes. I mostly am looking for commuter bikes in this video, mainly because I want a bike that's efficient, reliable, fun to ride, and you can just ride it for a very long period of time without any maintenance. For me, that's the reason I ride the DL650, but that's not going to be in there because you can't really get a DL650 no matter what year for less than $1,500 unless it's got a salvage title. So let's talk about some of the bikes that you can get for amazingly cheap, less than $1,500 on Craigslist, the Facebook Marketplace, and you can just ride for miles and miles. Number one, this one might be a little bit hard to get for less than $1,500, but I have seen it for less than $1,500. 2001, 2002, 2003, Yamaha FZ1. FZ1. It's got a detuned R1 motor, so it's not a beginner's bike. It's incredibly good, very powerful, and for me, I would get one with like 50,000 miles and pay less than $1,500. You also get like 40 miles to the gallon, and if you get like this Ivan jet kit, it is carbureted, so that's kind of like a downside. That bike will be tuned and very powerful with this Ivan jet kit that people put in it. But if you get a bike with 50,000 miles, most likely it's already going to be with that jet kit. A lot of people modify those bikes, but they're very cool looking. They're upright. You can sit and like look at people like very well. It's not in the hunchback position that you see on sport bikes. It's naked, so you don't have any plastics to deal with when you drop it in the snow, when you're commuting. It's relatively small. It is a 1000cc bike, so it's very powerful. But compared to today's standards, it's a very detuned bike. Another bike that I find cheap all the time, and people don't really care too much about it, is a 90s Yamaha Seca, or Seca. They have a chain drive. They are very good. They're upright, they're naked, and they're so reliable. I've had a friend of mine that had one, and he just rode the hell out of it. It's a great commuter bike, and it's so ugly that nobody's ever going to steal it. Also, you can look for an 85 or something Seca. I had another friend of mine that had one of those, but of course they are kind of old, but they're very good because they have a shaft drive. And shaft drives on bikes for commuters is much better because you don't have to keep maintaining it and changing the chain. And of course, it's a standard looking bike. It's a 4-cylinder, very cool looking bike. You could probably get that for less than $1,000. Another bike is not a motorcycle at all. It is a motorcycle, but it's a scooter. Scooter styles make great commuters. And that is the Honda Reflex, the 250cc version. It's a single cylinder, it's very comfortable, it's got a very wide seat, and if you don't know anything about scooters, they're extremely comfortable to ride. And a 250 will let you get up to like 70 miles per hour and still go on the highway. And they do get like 50, 60 miles to the gallon. So they're incredibly efficient, and they have the underseat compartment for storage. So that's another thing when you look for a commuter bike. You want some sort of storage because you want to like take your stuff to work and maybe keep your rain suit in case it rains. And a scooter style does really well. The good thing about the Reflex is that not a lot of people know about it because it wasn't a very high like popular seller. So people are kind of giving these bikes away. But they're extremely reliable. You can see a lot of these with a whole lot of miles on the marketplace. Another bike that's a good commuter is the ST1100. So the ST1100 is by Honda, and it's a V-twin, or actually V4, that's like sideways. It's a very cool engine. And you can get them for less than $1,500 if you look around. They're usually high mileage, but they're very, very durable bikes. I think they're probably some of the most durable bikes. I used to have one. I had the 91 with 129,000 miles. And some of the problems I had with it are the problems of just old age rather than engine problems. For example, I had like the rubber and the hoses break, and that's kind of like normal for cars that have like 20 years. Um, the SD1100 also had a little bit of a problem is that it heated up quite a bit, so in the crotch area tended to be a little bit hot. But that's something very minor. It also has a shaft drive. These things just go for forever, and you can ride these cross country. I think the reason I sold my SD1300 was that I was getting a lot of speeding tickets because they were just so fast. So beginners beware that these bikes, they're just very fast, they're very comfortable. They make it seem like you're not going fast, but you really are. They're 100-mile-an-hour missiles. Now, if you like the cruiser style, there is the Honda Rebel 250. You can get these for less than $1,000 in the DC metro area, and in the winter, probably even less. I'm not a fan of the cruiser style because I like the handling to be a little bit sharper and crisper, but these cruisers are everywhere, and you can get 70 to 80 miles to the gallon. They're incredibly efficient. They've made tons of these Rebels, so parts are everywhere. You can fix them. They're very easy to work on. And if you want something that's cruiser style and you don't mind having a small engine, 250s are really great for that. And of course, you get much better fuel efficiency than a 1100cc motorcycle. Another bike that you can get very cheap is the Honda VFR650s. And it really depends on the mileage because the VFR650s have kind of like this almost cult-like following. But I find that most of the time you can get them for less than $1,500, some for less than $1,000. There's even like the VFR 250s. There's the VFR 800s. The 800s are much more expensive, but you can get a 750 with a really cool V4 engine. So mine is a V-twin. The V-Strom is a V-twin, just one cylinder this way, one cylinder that way. The V4 is two cylinders that way, two cylinders that way. And it's a really cool looking bike. A lot of people don't like the styling. I'm not big into the styling of the VFR, but it is kind of like a bigger sport bike that's comfortable. It's a sport touring motorcycle. So it's got a lot of good wind protection. People really love them for commuting. They are very nice. They sound great, but for me, it's not really the style that I like. But they're very cool looking, and $1,500 you can get one of these and just ride that until the wheels fall off. Another bike that I would recommend, not for beginners, is the Yamaha FZ600. And the FZ600, I bought one for $800 a long time ago, and really good bike. It's a four-cylinder sport bike, and a lot of people think, oh yeah, it's like a 93, so it's not going to be fast, but it is a very fast bike. And I had a beginner buy an FZ6, and it was a very terrible idea, and I kind of regret even like telling him about that bike. But it's a good commuter bike, except there's not a lot of them anymore, so if you drop it, you have to kind of be aware that you need to source the parts. There's not a lot of parts available for it. It's a really cool bike, it's really fast, but you can get them for less than $1,000 easily around this area if they exist. They're kind of limited production at this point. We're in 2019, so it's not a bike that was sold with outrageous numbers. The bike I really love for commuting is a KLR650. You're not going to be able to get a KLR650 from the 2000s for like $1,500, but you will be able to get one from like 1998 to 1997. I had a 1997 really cool bike. It's a single-cylinder thumper, and it's such a good bike. I really love the KLR650. It's simple. It's got one cylinder. It's a chain drive. It just doesn't get any simpler than that. It's carbureted. $1,500 could get you one with 20,000, 30,000 miles, and they're still good. Like you can still ride them to like 50,000 miles. The downside is that they're kind of like lazy engines, which is good. You get like 50 miles to the gallon, but you don't get more than 50 miles to the gallon. When you compare it to like the BMW single cylinders, they get 60, 70 miles to the gallon. The KLR650 is kind of a little bit left behind, but that's the reason you get it very cheap, is because there are much better options out there. And of course, Kawasaki's not making the KLR650 anymore, so you can get even better deals. And Another great thing with the KLR650 is that there's tons of KLR650s everywhere. They've made these bikes for like over 20 years, so you can get parts everywhere. They're very cheap, very economical, and I highly recommend them. Look for a cheap one with a little bit more miles, and you can commute on it. And it's a dirt bike style, so you can like look over the traffic and like just go in between because they're very, very thin. The KLR650 has got a 6-gallon tank, which is kind of odd for a lot of motorcycles because normally 6 gallons is a lot of fuel, and you can get like 300 miles per tank. Really great bike. Another bike from Kawasaki that I really like is the Kawasaki EX250. You could look for a Ninja 250 from 2008, and I used to have one. Very reliable. You get 70 miles per gallon. I rode mine to like Canada, and I put like 87,000 miles on it. And I actually like the previous versions a little bit more for commuting. It's the EX250, the pre-2008, because they got really good gas mileage, and you could adjust the valves very easily on the EX250 rather than 2008 Ninja 250 that required shims. The EX250, it was just like a nut and a bolt to adjust the valves. Very easy to work on. I like that system more, but of course you have to adjust it more frequently. It's a bike that will get you 70 miles per gallon. If you change the gearing on it, you could even see like 80 miles per gallon. That's what I did in my EX250. The pre-2008s also had this really great thing. They had center stands, so you could work on your bike very easily. And they're so lightweight. They had a very large gas tank as well, and you could get like close to 300 miles per tank. So it's a very, very good bike, and you can get it for less than $1,000 in the DC metro area. The last bike I'll be talking about is another bike that I've never had, but I've always kind of had my eyes on it. I've seen this bike for about $1,000. That's the Kawasaki Concours from like 2001 or something. They are very good bikes. They also use the lock to adjust the valves, I think, but they are really excellent bikes. They also have a shaft drive, so that makes it a really good bike. The downside of the Concours is that it's really ugly looking. It kind of looks like a bigger EX250, but I enjoy the cuteness of the very small bike of the 250. The Concours is like a much bigger version of the 250. Really good bike for riding cross country. It's very reliable, and they didn't sell a lot of them, so you're not going to be finding parts everywhere for it, but it has everything that you need for cross country touring, including saddlebags and everything. Alright guys, thanks for watching my recommendations for commuter bikes for less than $1,500. I know that sometimes like these bikes could be a little bit more expensive in your area, but I'm in the DC metro area where there's a season to riding. So what I would recommend you guys do is wait until winter. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.